Boy, the Jacksonville Jaguars are an absolute mess. Two words to describe this: nasty work. I'll tell you about it in just a second here on a Loser Monday of Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Locked On Jaguars. I'm the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, Tony Wiggins. And here on Locked On Jaguars, it's your team every day. And we thank you for making us your first listen. A quick reminder, we're free to subscribe to on our YouTube page. Make sure when you go to Locked On Jaguars on YouTube, you hit the like button, you hit that bell to receive notifications anytime we drop an episode. And if you listen to audio podcasts, wherever you happen to do that, make sure you tap in every single day so you don't miss an episode. Today's episode obviously is about the Jacksonville Jaguars not living up to expectations. I'll tell you who does live up to expectations. That's the everydayers. The everydayers that join me every single day here on Locked On Jaguars. We appreciate you. And if you're not an everydayer, you can be. Just pop back in every single day. Nasty work. That's how we're going to describe this. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to sugarcoat anything. What we're going to do is talk about how the Jaguars have gone from first to worst in the AFC South. And I don't just mean in the standings. I mean in the way that they're playing and what their outlook is for the season. The team absolutely looks confused and dazed, and that doesn't give a lot of confidence to fans, especially when you look at the schedule that they have coming up. So we'll talk about that, who the catalyst for that is, and why that exists at this point. And were there missteps in the offseason? This is the $1 million question, the one that I left open-ended because at the beginning of all of this, when it was going on, I didn't like the way the offseason was going. But what I did was I said, we're going to back off and we're going to let them be who they are. We're going to let them be who they want to be. We're going to let them do what they want to do. And when there's time, I applauded them for not hedging their bets and gambling on themselves. Now I'm going to tell them that might not have been good enough. So you talk about the process, but then you talk about the results after you get them. So that's what we're going to go through today. First to worst in the AFC South. I know they're 1-2, and there are two other teams that are 1-2, but I don't think those fans feel as bad as about being 1-2 as the Jaguars. Like, if this is last year and you were 1-2, you don't feel bad because the expectation was the fans here in the city were willing to watch this team grow. After a 37-17 loss yesterday, it was more than a 20-point ass whooping. To be honest, it was. It was more. It felt like 40 points. In fact, it might as well have been Denver that gave up 70. Because at least Denver was playing a team that they expected to score a lot of points. The Jaguars were playing the Houston Texans, and I always say it's the NFL, and you have to be up and be ready for somebody. That's when you lose 13-10 or when you lose 17-16. When you get beat 37-17 and you get out physical by a team missing 4 offensive linemen with a rookie quarterback who had been sacked 11 times coming into the game, and you can't get to him at all. The rookie wide receiver, Dell, out of Houston. Tank Dell was the best wide receiver on the field yesterday. I don't know if he is the best wide receiver who was on the field yesterday, but yesterday his demonstrated performance was better than any wide receiver on the field. Will Anderson, the top 3 pick in this year's draft, shows his value by blocking, almost getting a scoop and score on a blocked field goal, and played pretty well yesterday. They were without Derek Stingley, their top corner. They were without Laramie Tunsil, their top offensive tackle and one of the 3 best offensive tackles in football. And they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 37-17 with a first-year rookie head coach. Are you serious? You're looking for answers. You don't get any. I will give the Jaguars credit for one thing. I'm going to give them credit for something. Ain't nobody making no excuses. Nobody's pointing at anybody else. Everybody's doing and saying the right things. They're saying we got to look in the mirror. It's on me first. It starts with me. That's what Doug said. It starts with us. We're not playing better. All three phases fell apart. Maybe we need to scale it back, simplify things. Trevor saying it's on me. We're better than that. We got the right guys. We're just not executing. We're not playing well. All of those things are being said. Not one Jaguar fan gives one damn about none of that. Because we're 3 games into the year. You don't even have a large enough sample size to say we just weren't ready to play today. You ain't been ready to play all season. This ain't like week 9 where you just come off of a bye and everybody's got a little fat because, they're 7-1 and, guys taking pictures on yachts in Miami with their shirt off. There's none of that. You're 3 games in and you've yet to show up ready to play. So when you want to say what's wrong, what could it be? In a year where you wanted to do it, now the questions come up: have they listened to too many press clippings? And I don't think that stuff affects these guys as much as we think. Everybody knows this dude's been playing their whole life. It's not like they just woke up all of a sudden and boom, some genie made them football players, and they don't have it ingrained in them that every game is serious. As a matter of fact, if you want to ask a football player whether or not he's mentally or physically ready, it's like saying, are you mentally and physically ready for somebody to punch you in your face? This is what they do for a living. If they're not ready, they get hurt. So let's stop making excuses about or giving them out when we ask them these questions. And I can't answer anybody any questions right now because I'm ailing and everybody knows that. So I don't do anything that requires a whole bunch of walking, at least for the next 6 weeks. I'm not. So I'm not calling anybody out for locker room questions or questions at a press conference that I didn't attend. But a lot of the thought is, I think many times we're leading them into giving softball answers. Obviously, we came out, we didn't execute. Why? Why didn't you execute? Why? Are you not good enough? Well, we got the guys in here, but we just not get it. Why? 3 games into the season, why aren't you ready? Well, for some reason, why? What do you mean some reason? Why? Well, if I knew that answer, I don't have a crystal ball. Doug mentioned the crystal ball. I don't have a crystal ball. But, sir, they're paying you to have a crystal ball. They're paying you. You have a stethoscope that nobody else has, and you have it on the pulse of this team, and you're supposed to know when the heartbeat of this team is beating and when it's not. Nothing from the past matters. Not the Super Bowl ring Doug won in Philly. Not any of that stuff. Not the record last year. Not all the come from behind wins. Nothing matters, and nobody knows that more than the guys that are out there getting punched in the face. Just look me in my eye in this corner. Just like Mickey and Rocky. What are you doing? What are you doing? At some point, Rocky said, he's too fast. I can't see him. They ain't going to admit it. But we got to ask ourselves, were there missteps made in the offseason? Did they stand firm and stand pat? Was it arrogance that they actually, and Rick Ballou asked this question, is it arrogance? I don't think it's arrogance, but at some point they made a decision that what they were going to do is they're going to ride with the guys that they had. So the question is are they good enough? And was that a mistake? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about why they're so confused. I think one of the reasons they're confused is they're being asked to do things that they're not capable of doing. And that's on Doug Peterson. I like Doug, but Doug is my target today because we praise the guy so much when things don't go right, things that are his responsibility, and he's not ducking it. If he heard this right now, he'd be like, rightfully so. We got to, until we are exactly what people are saying we are. They're a 1-2 football team that's played poorly for 2.5 halves of 2.5 games. They played 6 halves. They played poorly for 5 of them. Let's talk about it. And we're going to tell you right now, we're going to get back on Doug. We're going to do all of that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. To let you guys know about our sponsor today, and that's DoorDash. DoorDash Grocery. What is that? Well, you know how great DoorDash is and has been for a long time, delivering you food from your neighborhood and food from everywhere, even during some of the toughest times, right? Things are getting better, but DoorDash is getting better too. And what they're going to do is they're going to start delivering. They have started delivering groceries. That's right. Groceries. You trusted them to deliver your restaurant favorites, and now you can get grocery delivered too. Actually, grocery. Yeah, thousands of grocery stores to choose from. You'll find the best in your neighborhood and boost your local economy with each and every order. Get 50% off your first DoorDash order up to $20 value when you use the code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout. That's right. DoorDash. Delivering groceries. Locked On NFL. Man, are you serious? That's right. You can get DoorDash delivered as well to your house with groceries. Make sure you use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL and use DoorDash. All right, back here running it down here on Locked On NFL. Man, listen, I'm telling you, it is absolutely rough around here, around these parts. It is absolutely rough. It's a bad day. It's never a bad day to be a Jaguar fan, but it's a bad day today, man, because folks expected so much and they're getting so little in return for everything that they invested emotionally with this football team. It is one thing to not win games. It's another thing to not win games because somebody's punching you in your face repeatedly, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And I do believe at this point, the best thing the Jaguars can do is just swing back every now and then. But right now, it looks like your team is just soft. Not only physically soft, they look mentally soft. Their body language yesterday was atrocious. They look confused. And now there's some talk that maybe Doug took over play calling in the second half. And they got a little bit better. Doug looks like he went in on him at halftime and told him it's unacceptable. I don't think he's lying. I don't think they're sugarcoating anything. I think everything that Doug Peterson is saying is the correct thing. We got to execute all three areas, right? They had the bodies on that team. He says we have the men in the locker room. They have the bodies on that team to beat Houston. Whether they got the bodies, we always said that what we were doing this year, we were just going to compare them to great teams, the teams that they had to beat to make another step, right? So if they line up against Buffalo or Kansas City or the Bengals, maybe the Bengals, Miami, those sort of teams, the 49ers who they got to play, mercy. The Eagles, you'll say, are we good enough to beat those guys, right? And you may question that. There's no question they were good enough to beat the Houston Texans. There's no question they were good enough to have a better game against the Indianapolis Colts. But now that they've gone out against those teams and they don't look invincible and they actually look soft on the line of scrimmage, on the lines of scrimmage, I'll put an S on that. Now what you're going to get is this. Here's what you're going to get. You ready? Everybody and their brother's going to watch that tape and say, they ain't got no sand in their pocket. No hind parts whatsoever. We're going to punch them right in their face. We're going to punch them in the face. Our quarterback ain't got to worry about being knocked off his square because they can't rush the passer. And if we got fast receivers, we're going to run them down the field and run them deep. And then we're going to do some other stuff. We're going to find guys in the flat, and we're going to gamble that they can make them miss tackles. And oh, by the way, when they put the running back, when they put the kick returner in the game, usually when he's in the game, they're going to him. They don't have Jamal Agnew in the game if they're not going to him. And if they do anything that's behind the line of scrimmage, make sure you put a hat on him and then turn up. And once you put a hat on him, just look up for the ball because 9 times out of 10, it's going to be on the ground. We can fall in love with these players. We can fall in love with the positive things that they do. We can criticize them for the things that they can't do and they don't do, but the negative things that they do are going to draw our ire and they're going to draw our attention. And I'm at the point today where I'm thinking this. Simplify it and just depend on your best player. If you ain't giving the ball to Travis Etienne, you're looking for, once you get all of your wide receivers back, including Zay Jones, because it seems like they missed him yesterday, you need to be throwing the ball to Ridley, Zay Jones, Kirk, or Evan Ingram. I don't want to see Tank Bigsby in the game right now. I don't want to see Jamal Agnew in the game right now. You need your best players. You need to simplify it. Look at some of the really, really good players around the league and tell me, what do? They're going to throw the ball to 2, 3, or maybe the 4th person. That's it. The Jaguars cannot afford the luxury of substituting these people in and out of the game and then going to them in clutch situations. I know they say execute the offense. Sometimes you got to force it, though. If you don't have guys that you're trying to force the ball to make sure that they affect the game, then it probably means you don't have the right people. And the reason why they're looking confused, in my opinion, is because I think they thought what we all thought, that they were loaded with playmakers, that they're just going to put people in these mismatches and get guys out in space and they're going to make plays. Well, in order for guys like Jamal Agnew to make plays, he first has to hold on to the football. What's the oldest thing in football, at least offensively, that you've heard? If you can't protect the ball, you can't play. Jamal Agnew has fumbled 3 times in his last 4 games, and they've all been critical turnovers. When the team had either great field position, a lot of times field position that he gave them, great field position, momentum, heading in to score a touchdown in a playoff game. At some point, this is the message that has to be sent from leadership. You can't touch the ball on offense if you can't keep it off the ground. I don't care who you are. I don't care how good you are. Can't happen. Do we have anything designed to get Calvin Ridley running free in space? It seems like every time Calvin Ridley catches the ball, he gets lambasted. And that doesn't mean that Trevor is leading him into getting lambasted. It just means that he's not really open. And are we running these hard things because we believe our players and our quarterback is so good that they're just going to be able to fit balls in tight windows? Stop trying to turn Trevor Lawrence into Troy Aikman. Design some easy stuff. You got to catch screens. It was a tight end yesterday, dropped the screen. I don't know if it was Britton Strain. Somebody dropped the screen early in the game that was set. You can't do that. The only reason you should feel confused right now, because you were told that this team was better than that, and it doesn't appear that they are. Missteps in the offseason. One of them we talked about was not getting a pass rush. The other thing is, did they have overkill on the tight end position? Because there were other things that could have been addressed. The answer to both of those questions is yes, and I'll explain why they dropped the ball in the offseason. We'll do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. I must tell you first about LinkedIn Talent Solutions, who's the sponsor for today's show. With every new potential hire, it can feel like a high-stakes wager for a small business especially, and you want to be 100% certain that you're giving access to the best qualified candidates available. This is why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Just go to your LinkedIn page, add your job and a purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to and faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Tell you what else applies, man. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. The Jaguars need to let that ball fly all over the field, but Trevor Lawrence is running for his life. So we ask these questions. Did they make missteps first in their protection on the offense? I don't know if they planned on Cam Robinson being suspended. I don't know at what point they knew about it, but at some point they found out. They did use a first-round pick on an offensive lineman who was just replacing the one that they let go in free agency. The middle three that everybody thought was okay, especially once Ben Bartch came back, that middle three stinks, in my opinion. Luke Fortner has never been the strongest person in the world. Brandon Scherff had a couple of plays yesterday that helped keep momentum on the side of the Houston Texans, and he's doing things. I guarantee you Brandon Scherff ain't going to be on this team next year. They expect more. Legal hands to the face when you don't have to do it. Another play, jumping and false start. And I don't want to hear number 68's number called, especially at critical times of the game. And the other guy on the other side, Ben Barch, is just as average as the day is long. Remember that kid that was a free agent that played for Philly? He ended up signing with Pittsburgh, I believe, an interior lineman that Doug was very, very familiar with because he started for him in Philly. And I said they ought to go get him. I think it cost Philly like maybe Pittsburgh like $5 or $6 million a year to go get the dude. The dude's playing well. Remember I said they should keep Juwan Taylor even if you overpay him a couple of $1 million and then draft another lineman so that you have a whole bunch of people. Remember when I said that Walker Little was being considered or thought of by fans as like this great Swiss Army knife and this great piece? He's been okay. Yeah, I ain't gonna sit here and tell you Walker Little been getting beat all over the place because he hasn't. My point is as a whole, are they physical enough? Are they big and strong enough to take over a game when things aren't going well? Usually when things aren't going well, you can just say, hey, man, let's just punch them in the face for a little while. They aren't good enough to do that. Therefore, we were talking about a team trying to win a Super Bowl. You can't win a Super Bowl without a team that when you want them to, they just can't buckle down and go punch people in the face, even when you got 2 tight ends in the game. And speaking of those tight ends, you use a second-round pick on a tight end that's tight end 3 right now. And there's nothing dynamic or special about Brenton Strange. I thought he was going to add some physicality, but the way that they tried to add physicality reminds me of the same way Urban Meyer tried to add speed. You better get some good football players if you're just talking about them being physical. And even the parts of the team that you think are good yesterday, they had miscommunication. I thought the defensive backs have been playing well, but they can't cover all day. And how much of that is frustration from the fact that nobody's getting home? All of these other DBs are able to jump routes because they know the front 7 is going to get home. They missed Devon Hamilton, but they can't. They're not a Devon Hamilton away from being 3-0. Aiden Hutchinson finally had a good game yesterday, and all we heard yesterday now is they made a mistake with Trayvon. It's not because Hutchinson had his first 2 sacks, and if you look at it on paper, Hutchinson has 2 and Trayvon has 1. That has nothing to do with it. What it has something to do with is Houston had been sacked 11 times in 2 weeks, and they had 4 offensive linemen missing, and we didn't get any pressure. And I'm tired of talking about Josh Allen and his pressure. Josh Allen has 3 sacks. Of the guys that have over 2.5 sacks or 2 sacks, he's the only person that has 3 sacks with a total loss of 3 yards. That's 1 yard per sack. Anybody else with 3 sacks has total yards lost of 30, 28 yards. Like, you're really putting people in 2nd and 19. It shows you that those 3 sacks don't mean a hill of beans because there's only 3 yards lost. And the question that we got was, no, we don't want to take those 3 sacks and just go, yay, look, he's a sack leader for. No, it's about what do those sacks really mean? Because they're still not putting people on the ground. He's tied for 9th in the league in sacks right now. And all 3 sacks he got was in the first week. And 2 of them because the quarterback ran out of bounds without throwing the ball. So we're going to keep paying attention to numbers, or we're going to pay attention to impact. We can talk about Trayvon all day and say that Hutchinson was better. Fine. Y'all going to do that anyway. We can talk about him playing out of position. Fine. He was dropping off in coverage. We can say that when Trayvon was rushing the passer, he still had a very low rate. And he has to own that. But we also need to say, screw all of these pressures that we keep talking about. Guys aren't getting guys affected to the point where they're getting off the field on 3rd down. They're not getting guys on the ground, creating long down and distance situations. A guy that gets constant pressure without getting a lot of sacks is a guy who's a number 2 pass rusher, not a number 1. And how come we can sell out on tight ends, but we can't? We can't hedge our bets when it comes to edge rushers, but we can hedge our bets when it comes to tight ends because you franchised one, you drafted another one in the 2nd round. And lo and behold, the guy that you developed is actually tight end 2. So I keep asking this question, did you overshoot the position? If you didn't have Brenton Strange, but you had Garrett Prince still in the lineup, but instead of Brenton Strange, you drafted somebody else. That nickel, Andre Branch that everybody talked about, he went in the second round. It's not like you couldn't trade up for him, right? They still need a nickel here. And Andre Branch is looking like a world beater. What are we doing? What are we doing? Make them own it. Yeah, everybody has to play better. That's the players owning it. Do you have the right guys in the locker room? Are you just saying that to motivate them? Or do you really mean you have the right guys in the locker room? There's more to building a winning team than just hitting a lottery on a franchise quarterback who has to play like a franchise quarterback. And quite frankly, he hasn't done that the first 3 weeks. He makes very difficult throws at times. But then other times, I don't know if it's because of the protections. I don't know if guys aren't getting open. I don't know if it's schematically. Guys are, because they schemed up a real good play yesterday when they hit Tank Dell down the seam for a long pass. If you watch that play with the all-22, Caleb Vaughn took an inside release as if somebody was going to loop around, and Devin Lloyd was the loop guy, but Devin Lloyd didn't seem like he was called to loop. So therefore, you had 4 defensive linemen all crashing inside, no one coming off the edge, and that kid was sitting back there eating cookies and doing his taxes, CJ Stroud, and then he hit a deep ball right down the seam in the middle of the 3 Jaguars. If you look at the play, it looks like Devin Lloyd and Andre Cisco were guarding the same people in the same area. All of it has to be looked at. Everything has to be taken in consideration. No stone has to be unturned. And when I say no stone, I'm talking about in the personnel department. There has to be hard conversations on whether or not Trent Baalke is giving Doug Peterson everything he wanted. Doug Peterson said that pass rush was the priority in the offseason. And the only thing that they did was use a 5th-round pick on Yasir Abdullah. And that's fine. Nothing against Abdullah, but we shouldn't be sitting here thinking that a dude picked in the 5th round is the savior of this team. He should be someone who's in development, playing special teams, working his way up to be a depth guy, and then eventually a starter, and letting them have an opportunity to give him a chance to start and play a lot more in year 2 or year 3. But no, we're looking at it like he's the 4th edge rusher, and really, he's probably their 3rd best edge rusher. I'm tired of Caleb Von Chason getting thrown around. It's not about the splash plays or the sack finally getting a number. Somebody needs to understand that dude plays like he doesn't eat his vegetables. And it's too easy. And I know if we see it, it's cake for the other team. They're dropping Trayvon into coverage all the time. And then when he does rush the passer, it just seems like, for me, it's something I brought up last week. I don't think they get up the field. They really come in and bull rush the thing. It's almost like they're playing gap and hold or something instead of just letting these guys rip and run. It's like they're afraid to really let them go. I would ditch all of that stuff that requires those guys to drop into coverage. I don't care if you have to go to a 4-3 or stay in nickel and find a really good box guy. Maybe when Antonio Johnson comes back, he could be that hybrid safety / linebacker. I don't care what you got to do. I just think they should stay with 4 down linemen. Stick with 4 down linemen and figure out if you can get pressure that way. If you're going to drop a 275-pound guy in coverage, then you might as well put a 240-pound guy in there and drop him into coverage. Are they outsmarting themselves and putting themselves at a disadvantage? They seem like a team that is built on letting individual guys make plays, and if that's the case, the individual guys that's making plays aren't good enough to be individual guys making plays. Something has to get right. We don't know the answers. They don't know the answers. The team looks confused. The fans look confused. We're all confused. The only thing that's not confusing is they have been getting pushed and mushed around like it's nobody's business. And if they don't stop that, not only are they not going into playoffs, but they're going to be picking in the top 10 of the draft, and some heads might end up rolling in the offseason. I'll be here for you guys every single day. Hopefully, I thought we were done with doing these type of podcasts. Some people think I'm at my best when we're like this. I'd rather be at my worst and you be happy than me be at my best while you're sad. So we're going to relish in it. We're going to make sure that we're here for you every day here on Locked On Jaguars. Until next time, we'll see you.